What if the strongest man in Heartland faces a battle he cannot punch, cannot outrun, cannot hide from? A silent enemy crawling through his own body. Bordon has faced betrayal, captivity, and impossible odds. But now survival is not about strength or speed. It's about choice. Every second that ticks by, his infected hand spreads the danger, and with it comes a decision that could either bring him back to the life he fought to protect, or take everything away. In Season 20, the fight is not outside, it's inside, and the stakes have never been higher. Ty presses his hand against the cold wall, the ache in his fingers now a deep burning pulse that refuses to be ignored. He had thought he could endure anything, the dark nights in captivity, the hunger, the beatings, but this was different. This pain, this creeping infection was a quiet predator, patient and relentless, and Ty could feel it climbing inch by inch, like fire lacing through ice. He had tried to convince himself it was just a wound, that a bit of rest and bandages would make it fade. But each morning, when he unwrapped the gauze, the truth was undeniable. The redness had spread, the swelling had worsened. His hand felt alien, heavy, almost betraying him. The pain was no longer sharp and fleeting. It was constant, alive, reminding him with every heartbeat that ignoring it was no longer an option. The problem was not just the infection. Going to a hospital meant exposure, questions, identification, scrutiny from people he could not trust. Ty knew that powerful enemies still searched for him, that any sign of his presence could send danger rushing to Heartland, putting Amy and Lindy in harm's way. The thought made his chest tighten, and yet hiding was failing him. His body ached with fatigue. The fever began subtly at first, a faint heat beneath his skin, a whisper of weakness. But soon it came in waves, relentless and invasive, leaving him shivering one moment and burning the next. Each step toward the possibility of care felt like stepping into a trap, yet each step away from it felt like surrendering to a slow death he could not fight alone. Ty leans forward, clutching his injured arm, counting breaths that refused to slow. The memory of pain, of loss, of helplessness, of friends and men he had watched perish in silence, flashes in his mind. He had survived 6 years of darkness, and yet he now realizes survival alone is not enough. He whispers Amy's name under his breath, imagining Lindy's face, the sound of her laughter echoing through his chest, a delicate tether to life he cannot afford to sever. Pride has always been his armor, but now he understands that pride, left unchecked, can be lethal. Meanwhile, back at Heartland, unease stretches across the ranch. Amy senses something she cannot name, a restless pull, a whisper of worry threading through her every action. She lingers at the barn longer than usual, running hands over the horses' necks, listening to the quiet sounds of hay and hoofbeats, searching for a signal she does not yet understand. Jack notices her distraction, sees the way her eyes drift toward the horizon, as if expecting someone to appear from the distant road. He trusts his instincts. Sometimes they whisper truths no one else can hear, and right now, they scream that something is coming, something unseen, yet impossible to ignore. Ty's mind returns to the practical. Bandages, wraps, cooling rags, every measure he takes feels like a temporary patch on a storm that refuses to end. He tests his fingers, tries to flex them, and recoils as pain shoots up his arm. His heartbeat quickens. Sweat gathers along his hairline despite the frigid air. His vision blurs, the world tilts, and fear, that old companion, returns, not of capture, not of violence, but of helplessness, of time slipping away, of unfinished promises. Survival has always been about endurance, about moving forward no matter the odds, but now the odds are not physical. They are psychological, emotional, moral. Every second wasted is a gamble with his life. Night descends, and the infection asserts itself with cruel precision. Ty's body rebels against him, shivers rack him, burning fever overtakes his core, and every movement demands effort he no longer possesses. He drinks water, but trembling hands betray him, the glass slipping. Breathing becomes uneven, labored, a reminder that each choice has weight. He cannot wait another day, cannot linger in the shadows. If he collapses tonight, there may be no one to find him. Memories of darkness, of locked doors and ignored cries, push against his chest. Powerless, dependent, alone, he remembers every moment he swore he would never let himself be there again. Yet within the darkness, a fragile light appears in memory. Dr. Naren, her steady hands, her calm voice, the way she once helped without questioning, without suspicion. Not everyone is a threat, and that truth, small but undeniable, reaches him in the deep pit of fear. If he seeks help, there is risk. But if he continues alone, there is almost certain death. Ty realizes that survival requires more than strength. It requires trust. To let someone else carry part of the burden is foreign, terrifying, yet potentially life-saving. He takes a shaky breath, stands, wrapping his coat tighter, covering his face, holding his injured arm close. Every step outside is a step against time, against the infection, against the years of habits that taught him to hide in shadows. The streets are quiet, cold, dangerous in their normalcy. Ty moves slowly, mind alert for observation, for danger, for anything that might betray him. His steps are deliberate, measured, a man against his own body and his own fear. Halfway down the block, he stumbles, grips a wall, heart pounding, sweat mixing with winter chill. A passerby glances at him, briefly, suspiciously, but not enough to stop him. Ty presses forward. Finally, the narrow door of a small clinic appears, unassuming, simple, a chance at life without the full exposure of a large hospital. Every instinct screams both caution and relief. One step inside, and hiding will no longer be possible. But one step outside might be fatal. Ty reaches for the door handle, hand trembling violently, infected skin screaming in protest. The choice is monumental: to risk exposure to claim life, or to cling to shadows and risk losing everything. He breathes, whispers Amy's name once more, and pushes the door open. The sterile scent hits him, the clean smell of disinfectant. Lights glare overhead. Every weakness, every scar, every tremor suddenly feels visible. And yet, for the first time in days, he is moving not out of fear, but out of hope. He wants to live. He wants to come home. He wants to hold Lindy again. A nurse looks up immediately, concern replacing surprise. Ty utters words foreign to his mouth. "I need help." She guides him to a chair, steadying him as he lowers himself, body threatening to collapse. The infection has climbed near his elbow now. Swelling and redness are undeniable. He feels weak, terrified, yet a seed of relief begins to grow. The doctor arrives, calm, focused, professional, eyes scanning him like a hawk, yet not judging, assessing the gravity of days spent hiding. Ty answers questions quietly, carefully, admitting the duration of his suffering without explanation. Because no explanation could suffice. The doctor speaks gently but firmly. He is lucky. The infection is serious. Treatment must start immediately, and observation may be necessary. Ty's heart beats faster. Records, names, paperwork. His past may still find him here, even in this quiet place. The needle pierces his vein. Cool medicine flows into his bloodstream. Relief, partial but immediate, floods him, as if his body finally knows it is no longer alone in the fight. Hours pass. Ty lies on the hospital bed, fever easing, pulse stabilizing. The weight of the risk lifts slightly, replaced by a new burden, the need to face truth, to reclaim life, identity, and trust. Outside, Heartland sleeps under silver moonlight, unaware, yet connected in some ineffable way to Ty's struggle. Amy paces, Jack watches silently, sensing tension in a quiet sky. Somewhere, across miles and worry, bonds hold, stretch, endure. And Ty, finally resting, feels that even in vulnerability, there is strength. Because courage is not always in fists or flight. Sometimes it is in asking for help, in letting go, in moving forward even when fear shouts to stop. Morning light filters weakly through the small clinic window, painting faint stripes across the white walls. Ty's body feels foreign, heavy, weighed down by the infection and the long nights of hiding. Every limb aches. Every breath reminds him of the hours he spent alone, writhing in pain, torn between survival and pride. The IV line hums quietly, steady and persistent, a soft rhythm that contrasts with the chaos inside him. The cool medicine works, but the real battle is still within. The battle of trust, the battle of letting someone else see the man Ty has been forced to become, and the man he hopes to reclaim. He tries to lift his bandaged hand, flex the fingers, but the throbbing pain is relentless. The redness has faded slightly, but Ty knows it will take more than antibiotics to heal what the years of trauma have carved into his body. His hand, once strong and steady, now feels fragile, as if even the simple act of gripping a door handle could betray him. Every small motion becomes a reminder of vulnerability. He wants to stand, to leave, to return to Heartland. But the weight of the risk presses down like a storm cloud. One wrong move, one casual word, and the fragile safety of anonymity could vanish. Memories creep in uninvited, the darkness of the past, the cells, the cold concrete walls, the unseeing faces of guards, the long nights filled with nothing but fear. These memories cling to him, but then he recalls Dr. Nairn's calm, steady presence, the compassion in her voice. It strikes him now how rare that kindness is in a world he has learned to distrust. Ty realizes that he has spent years carrying his pain alone, believing strength meant isolation, believing that survival meant silence. Now he understands something that frightens and frees him at the same time. Strength is not always in endurance. Sometimes it is in surrender, in the courage to be seen, in the willingness to trust. Outside, Heartland is waking slowly. Horses stir, the barns creak, and Amy walks through the paddocks, her eyes scanning the horizon instinctively. There is an unease she cannot explain, a subtle tension pressing at her chest. Jack watches, recognizing the feelings she cannot articulate. Their connection to Ty is invisible, yet undeniable, a silent pulse that stretches across distance. Somewhere, miles away, Ty is fighting a private war, unaware that the ranch holds its own anticipation, its own tension. The bond between them, though fractured by absence, vibrates faintly, like a string pulled taut. Ty shifts in the chair, groaning softly as pain shoots up his arm. The doctor re-enters, notebook in hand, calm but firm. "You're responding well to treatment," he says, scanning Ty's vitals. Ty nods, swallowing hard, aware that these words are temporary shields against the storm of decisions waiting for him outside. Observation may be required, questions will come, identification will be asked. His past, carefully hidden for years, may resurface like a tidal wave at any moment. The thought tightens his chest, but for the first time, he senses a choice beyond fear. He can continue hiding, or he can start reclaiming his life. Both paths are dangerous, but only one offers the chance to truly come home. Hours pass slowly, each tick of the clock a reminder of time he cannot waste. Ty lies back against the pillow, fatigue weighing on him, yet his mind refuses to rest. He imagines Lindy, her face innocent, unknowing of the danger her father has endured, the secrets he has carried. He imagines Amy, strong and resilient, holding the ranch together, yet somehow sensing that something is missing, a void she cannot yet name. The ache in his chest grows not from illness, but from the longing to protect them, to return whole, not broken, not hidden, not silent. Every breath reminds him that he is capable of fighting, but that fight must now include courage beyond the physical. The doctor's calm voice cuts through the haze again. "We'll keep you overnight, monitor your progress. You're lucky you came when you did." Ty absorbs the words. Lucky? Perhaps. But he knows deep down it was more than luck that brought him here. Love, duty, hope, and a fragment of courage larger than fear carried him through the darkness to a place where survival was possible. He realizes the subtle truth. Sometimes survival alone is insufficient. To truly live, to reclaim what was lost, he must act, not merely endure. Night returns, and with it, the isolation and quiet of the clinic. Ty cannot sleep fully, though exhaustion pulls at him relentlessly. Every creak in the hallway, every distant footstep, tightens his chest, sets his pulse racing. Trust is fragile, he understands now, and exposing oneself to help carries its own dangers. But hiding, he sees, can be deadly in ways the mind never predicts. Fever spikes and chills come in waves, alternating like twin threats, but the medicine flows steadily, and relief, partial yet tangible, begins to anchor him. He allows himself a sliver of gratitude, a rare sensation in a life dominated by vigilance and fear. Ty's thoughts drift again to Heartland. The ranch, the wide open skies, the horses, the smell of hay and leather, the laughter of Lindy, the steady, grounding presence of Amy. These are not just memories, they are lifelines. Each image strengthens him, yet reminds him that time is limited. He cannot linger in this fragile safety forever. Eventually, he will have to face the world outside these walls, to reclaim his place in the lives of those he loves, and to confront the past that has shadowed him for so long. But for now, he focuses on the immediate, on the small victories. Each reduction in swelling, each faltering breath that grows steadier, each drop of medicine that courses through his veins, a quiet but persistent ally. Ty closes his eyes for a moment, feeling the tension drain slightly from his shoulders. He has survived this far by sheer will, but now he understands that will alone cannot suffice. The fight is not just physical, it is emotional, moral, and psychological. Every moment in the clinic, every glance from the doctor and nurse reinforces the idea that to live fully, to return to Heartland, he must embrace vulnerability. He must let go of the ghost of fear that has clung to him for years and take deliberate steps toward trust, toward transparency, toward reclaiming life, not merely surviving it. In the quiet, with the IV line a steady pulse of hope, Ty whispers again. This time not in fear, but in determination. He will not let pride, fear, or past enemies dictate his life any longer. The infection has forced him to confront truths he has long avoided. Pain and danger have stripped away illusions of invincibility. Now, the choice is clear. Endure silently and risk everything, or act boldly, accept help, and start the slow journey back to the life and the people he has fought for so long. And as night deepens, Ty feels the first genuine flicker of clarity and courage in days. He is not just surviving anymore. He is beginning to fight for the life he wants to reclaim. The first rays of dawn barely touch the edges of the small clinic window, but Ty is already awake, staring at the ceiling, mind racing faster than his fevered body. Sleep, when it came, was restless, punctuated by visions of shadows and locked doors, memories of the past 6 years pressing against him like invisible walls. His hand throbs, the infection still gnawing at the edges of his consciousness, but the medicine offers a fragile promise of relief. Ty knows it is temporary. The real battle begins the moment he steps outside again, into the world that has not stopped spinning in his absence. Every nerve in his body is alive with tension, every heartbeat a reminder that the infection was only the first challenge. Facing the consequences of trust and exposure is the second, invisible, and far more unpredictable. He flexes his fingers cautiously, marveling at the simple sensation of movement without immediate agony. The swelling has subsided slightly, the redness muted, but the damage is not erased. Ty has seen what infection can do, what untreated wounds can become, and the thought of slipping backward into that same shadow fills him with dread. Survival has always demanded vigilance, but now he must balance that vigilance with something he has long avoided: reliance. To let someone else in, to admit weakness, is to risk control, but also, finally, to risk life. He inhales sharply, imagining Amy and Lindy waiting somewhere in the calm stretches of Heartland, unaware of the fight he wages quietly for them, unaware of the cost of each second he hesitated. Outside, the ranch awakens to ordinary sounds, horses shifting in their stalls, the soft clatter of tack, the distant crow of a rooster. Yet beneath the calm, Amy senses a tension she cannot name. Her steps are deliberate as she moves between stalls, running her hands over the horses' coats, listening to the wind whisper across the fields. There is a pull she cannot ignore, a quiet instinct threading through her chest, tugging at her awareness. Jack notices, standing nearby, understanding without words that her heart is not fully at rest. Something is happening. Somewhere, something that calls across the distance, fragile yet persistent. He watches her pause, eyes lifted toward the horizon, reading the silent message her instincts send. The connection between them, unspoken and subtle, hums with anticipation, a thread stretching unseen toward Ty, tying them together through the weight of worry and hope. Ty shifts again, lowering himself slightly in the chair, hand pressed gently to his chest as though it might steady the thrum of his pulse. The nurse returns, checking vitals, her eyes soft with concern, but professional, efficient. "How are you feeling?" she asks quietly. Ty swallows, realizing that admitting fear aloud is foreign to him. "Better," he says, voice rough from disuse, though he knows it is only partial truth. His body is not better. It is only beginning to heal, and the battle within him is far from resolved. Yet the act of speaking, of acknowledging that he needs help, sparks a subtle shift, a glimmer of agency in a life long governed by fear and concealment. The doctor returns with updates, calm yet deliberate. The infection is responding to treatment. "You were lucky," he says, his tone carrying neither blame nor judgment, only observation. Ty absorbs the words slowly, weighing their significance. Lucky? Perhaps. But he feels a deeper truth pressing against him. Survival is not luck. It is a decision made at the edge of fear, a choice to act when hesitation could have meant the end. He allows himself a moment, brief and fleeting, to breathe in that recognition. Luck alone did not bring him here. Resolve did. Courage did. The realization is a quiet triumph, a spark against the shadow that has followed him for years.